Hi, it's Tamari, the AstroFashionista. Welcome to my channel. If you're new, go ahead and press that like button. You know you want to do it. And subscribe if you want to know all about the latest in astrology, numerology, spirituality, mysticism, a little bit of fashion and beauty, just how to better your life in general. You're going to want to subscribe. So today we're going to talk about the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction that's going to be happening, which will be up, this video will be uploaded today, so December 21st, 2020. And if you follow astrology or you listen to astrologers, you've heard about this. This is one of the big events that's going to end 2020. And I'm going to first off tell you what this is about and then how it affects each zodiac sign. And first, let's start off by talking about what is a conjunction. So a conjunction is when two planets are sitting next to each other, or they appear to be sitting next to each other in orbit. It represents a new cycle. It's a Ptolemaic aspect, a conjunction. And then the planets move and they go to a square and then an opposition and then a closing square. And the cycle starts all over again. This takes a while when it comes to outer planets. And so Saturn and Jupiter are outer planets. Jupiter moves faster than Saturn. So these two planets meet up in this position in a conjunction about every 20 years. So that is significant in itself because they haven't been together in like 20 years. And then they're also moving into air signs. They're starting a new cycle where they're going to be in air signs where they've been in earth signs for about the past 200 years. So that's also significant. So this is kind of like a changing of a guard, a new energy. This is also significant because this is happening on the same day as the winter solstice in the northern hemisphere, when the sun moves into Capricorn and it's the beginning of winter. And so we have a whole new energy coming in. And so that also adds to the excitement of what this conjunction represents. So first, let's talk about what each of the planets represents in themselves. Okay, Jupiter is the planet of abundance. It represents making things larger, spirituality, excess, expanding things, going beyond the limits, and just being all around jovial. Jupiter is considered a benefic in astrology. It's warm and moist. In day charts, it's very strong, and it's large. So it's larger than life. Saturn, on the other hand, is like opposite of Jupiter. Saturn is about limitations. It's very cold and icy, and it's about structure and hard lessons and work, and it rules time, and it wants to limit us, and it wants to be hard on us, like that teacher that was an asshole in school that, you know, was super hard on you, but you rose to the occasion and you performed great in their class. I hope you performed great because they were hard on you. So Saturn is, you know, that father figure that wants to teach us lessons, and Jupiter would be like the drunk uncle that just wants to like have a good time and all of those things. So those two planets meeting up is very two different energies. We're working they're working against each other. And so when it comes to the conjunction, these planets have to learn how to get along. And one planet usually always wins out, the stronger planet. And in this case, I would say it's going to be Saturn, but Jupiter is a big influence because it represents the optimism that we need. And we know in 2020, I'm not going to talk about 2020 because I want to motivate people, not scare people on this channel, but we know that we need a little bit of optimism. And so Jupiter has been in its detriment in Capricorn for the past 12 months or so. Saturn has been in Capricorn, the sign that it rules, for about 3 years. And so Capricorn is cardinal Earth. Earth is stagnant. It's building its stability, but it's pretty stagnant energy, whereas air, where these planets are moving into, is about being fluid and ideas and things changing. So just that alone is going to bring in a new energy and a new chance for a fresh new start. Jupiter rules Sagittarius and Pisces traditionally, and so Jupiter in Aquarius represents new ideals and forward thinking. Aquarius is the sign of people. Capricorn is a sign of business. So anything that's not people focused will not live on, because right now everything is about let's push humanity forward. And so when we think of Jupiter and Saturn, Jupiter wants to push humanity forward. It wants to make us inspired. It has to come up with new ideas. It wants to help with technology, because technology is one of the things that can come about in an Aquarius period. Be more humanitarian-like. Come up with creative solutions. Jupiter wants to push us to do all of those things. Saturn will help us put the structure behind it that's needed. So with Jupiter tends to overdo things. Saturn's going to be like, I'm going to make things harder before I make them easy, because you're not going to get the lesson unless you go through a little bit of trials and tribulations. So it's going to be collectively a blending of wanting to push forward, but things kind of slowly moving, because it might feel like we're a little stuck and we're at odds. And these planets, it's going to square off against Uranus and Taurus. Uranus is currently in Taurus, a sign that's square Aquarius, which is a 90-degree, another Ptolemaic asset, which is about tension and needing to take action to get through that tension. And so when we come across these squares, there's going to be crisis points. There are going to be more crisis points happening next year. 2021 probably will be, if 2020 was about, you know, breaking things down, destruction. I talked about this in, you know, my January video, things dying to be reborn because we had the Pluto conjunction with Saturn. This year is about taking the steps to move forward, to clear up all the things that died in 2020. So it's about putting the plans in action. And this is going to be happening in several different factors in the world. It's going to be happening in technology. It's going to be happening in travel. It's going to be happening, in agriculture. It's going to be happening in the financial sector. These are all some of the themes that are going to happen. And so some of the tips that I would tell you guys is, when it comes to the financial thing, 2020 has been a very tough year for a lot of people, and we have not even hit the recession yet. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a recession. There will likely be something that happens in 2021 or even into 2022, because right now people are just trying to get by. Businesses are just trying to get by. We haven't seen the ramifications of these delayed payments and all those things. So I do anticipate to be some sort of financial crisis in some way next year, possibly, especially when we start seeing those squares with Uranus and Taurus, and Taurus rules finances. So this is not to scare you. This is more to help you be prepared. And if you have the means, save. Times in crisis and financial are times where you should be planning for the next uptick. So this is a great time, if you've been responsible, Saturn, to kind of move to the next level when it comes to financial planning. There will likely be a change in currency. Cryptocurrency is growing. Bitcoin right now, as of I think this week, is worth, one Bitcoin is like $20,000. Cryptocurrency, look, I'm not a financial advisor, so take my advice as you will, but I have been investing in crypto. My husband has invested in crypto. Just, you know, dabbling in it, whatever you can, because there's bound to be some sort of currency change eventually. When we think back about about money and how it's come to be, think about it. Credit cards were a new concept. So this idea of a digital global currency is not that far-fetched. And so when we have Uranus and Taurus, that's changed to finances, even that alone. And so when we square it off with Saturn and Aquarius, which is people and technology, I foresee that continuing to grow. That's one way. Food, the way we eat, the way we use agriculture to get food and cultivate food, and how it affects the environment. Those issues are going to continue to be popular and things that are talked about. One thing that I really foresee happening is more regulation when it comes to media, all media, whether it's social media, TV, everything. Especially the internet. We've had an internet boom, especially after the last conjunction, and right now there's very little regulations. There's a few companies that control all of the social media. We know who they are, and so I foresee more regulations coming in those areas. I foresee people being more responsible for the things and the messages that they put out into the world. There might be more plagiarism well, not more plagiarism, but there might be more regulations around plagiarism. Right now, people are putting out content like me, and there's other people that might be taking that content and not referencing or citing where they're getting this information, or not citing where their studies and things like that. So there might be more regulations around that. So I think in general, media, and specifically social media, might continue to be regulated under this, kicked off after this conjunction, mainly because Aquarius is technology, it rules people, and the spreading of messages. Travel is another sector that we're going to see reform to. We all know with the coronavirus what it's done to the travel industry. There are going to start being new rules and regulations in travel when it comes to fly. Air sign, Aquarius, that would be air. Uranus can rule the sky. And so that alone tells me something in travel happening, new structures, new rules, new regulations, expanding, coming up with new innovations to help people get back into traveling. Okay, so that's just a general overview about the conjunction itself. Now I'm going to talk through how this energy might be affecting all 12 signs, we'll say for the next year to 2 years or so. Okay, Aries, we have you right over here. So Jupiter and Saturn are moving into your 11th house of friends, groups, associations, and hopes and wishes, and the money that you make from your career. It's the second from the 10th. So you've had these two planets in your 10th house of career for a while now. So and this is for Aries and Aries rising. So there's been working on your career, your destiny, how you want to be seen in the world, your reputation. All of that's been, you've been having new structures in those areas. Now the focus is more on, okay, how do I continue to expand the money that I'm making from my career? And part of that is going to be through networking. But because Jupiter rules both your 9th house and your 12th house, that's far away places, that's foreign travel, that's education, it's learning, it's spirituality, and then Saturn rules both the 10th and the 11th. So that tells me that there might be a component where you're connecting with people on a global scale. You're making friends that maybe are not in your neighborhood. They're far away from you in some way. Networking with people that could possibly continue to help you grow in your career sector. You have Uranus currently in your 2nd house of income and finances and the things that you own and your possessions. So there's already change happening in that area. And a lot of this is going to continue to be pushed with this energy. And you've had Mars also in your sign longer than it normally would be because Mars went retrograde in 2020. So you've had the drive and the energy to really kind of go after things. Even with the retrograde, Mars is the ruler of Aries. And so it gave you an extra push. So right now is the time to continue with that energy. Aquarius is a sign that's considered sextile from you. So sextile is an easier type of energy, but it's going to take effort on your part. It's one of those things that it's not going to come to you. And so with Aries is all about starting and being really motivated and things like that, but they're not always so great, depending on the other energy in your chart, at finishing things, because it's a very like energy that it's fire, it's cardinal fire. So it's quick to start, but maybe foreseeing and going and seeing it through might be challenging sometimes for some Aries, especially if they have a lot of that fire energy in their chart. So it will be about planning and structure, turning to that Saturn energy to really stay disciplined, so that you can continue to push forward in your career and expanding your money and things like that. Another thing to note is that the North Node is in Gemini. That's in your 3rd house. So again, that could be, neighborhood. So even if it's somebody that you're not networking with, that's not far away, but maybe it's someone that's in a neighborhood that's adjacent to yours, or someone that's in your city or a neighboring city, that can be a key component into helping you kind of push forward in your goals. Or maybe it's a sibling, especially since the North Node is going to trine Jupiter and Saturn. So yeah, that's Aries. So Taurus and Taurus rising. So you've had Saturn and Jupiter in your 9th house of education, travel, learning, spirituality, mentors, things like that. And so now they're moving over into your 10th house. So over the past 3 years or so, you've been asked to be very structured. So maybe some of you went back to school, maybe some of you took courses, maybe some of you had a mentor that was helping you, maybe some of you moved somewhere far away. Maybe some of you took up another spiritual practice or got really into spirituality. And so now there's going to be a big focus on your career and your reputation in the world, and kind of moving up and climbing and destiny, and like what you want to do while you're here in life. You have Uranus in Taurus. It's going to be a long transit. It's a 7-year transit total, and it's been there for a while. So Uranus in Taurus is about shaking up Taurus, and Taurus is a fixed sign. Taurus, anyone with a lot of Taurus in their chart doesn't really like change. It takes a while to kind of get going, but once you get going, you see it through. So that's a plus. So the Uranus is shaking things up already. And so this change might be uncomfortable for you because it's going to square, it's a square aspect. And so it's an identity change, and it requires action. So one of the things I would tell you is that if there is a change that you're thinking about making, you should be the one to initiate the change versus having something in your life happen that initiates it for you, because that's going to be much more dramatic and much more harder for you to deal with. So take the action, initiate it yourself, and just start planning what you want for your future. And you'll find that things will be a lot easier for you in that way. For you, Jupiter rules both the 8th and the 11th house. And so there might be an opportunity. There might also be focus on the money that you have with a partner, resources, debt. Because even though these planets are in that area, they still govern certain areas in your chart. So those areas are still kind of involved. So I would say opportunities could come through other people or friends, but I would just, you know, be wary about who you choose to go into business with. If it's not, even if it's your spouse, you know, really think about it, and keep that in mind. And overall, I think the theme is working hard. Jupiter is going to give you opportunities in that area, but it's going to be up for you to really put your nose to the grindstone and grind it out to make the most of those opportunities when it comes to your career. Okay, Gemini and Gemini rising. So Gemini is an air sign like Aquarius. So this energy might be a little bit easier for you to deal with since Capricorn is a sign that's quincunx for you. It's that Capricorn, you know, structured cardinal earth energy versus mutable Gemini can be out of sync. So just by nature, with Jupiter and Saturn moving into an air sign, that's a little bit of a lighter energy for an air sign like Gemini. And so you currently have the North Node in Gemini. And so the North Node is about pushing forward to what your destiny is in this life, moving towards learning something new. It's Rahu, it's the dragon's head. It's the things that are very, make us feel motivated and what we should take in. And then the South Node is kind of about what we should excrete or leave behind or just incorporate into our new learnings. And so this is in Gemini. So right now, this is a time for Geminis to really be, you know, going with, what can I learn? What can I take in right now? What can I, and you're already naturally very curious with Mercury as your ruler. And so that's going to continue. And so with Saturn and Jupiter in Aquarius, they were just in your 8th house. And so that was all about debt and taxes and finances with a partner. So there could have been issues or structures that have come up either with lawsuits or, you know, having to pay IRS or credit card debt or anything like that. Some of you might have experienced actual physical loss or death of people. And so now these planets are moving into your 9th house of travel, education, learning, mentorship. And so it's about learning a new skill, which is very natural for you. What can you learn right now that's going to better your future? Do you want to go back to school? Is there some courses that you can take, some sort of certifications that you can get to kind of further your goals? Jupiter rules your 10th house of career and also your 7th house. So the issues around work and destiny. So, you know, maybe there's you having to go back to school because you know you can get a promotion at work, or maybe you're having a career change. Gemini is a mutable sign. So, and when you have Pisces at your midheaven, if you're a Gemini rising and you have Pisces at your midheaven, you already might change careers, you know, several times in your life, or there might be a fluidness about your career where you don't just do one thing. So maybe it's that you're considering to further education because you know long term, it's going to be a better choice for you when it comes to your career. And then when it comes to relationships, that is going to be, since Jupiter is governing that area, maybe it's going to be a partner that's pushing you to do that, or maybe you're going to meet someone who's going to help you reach that goal. It's a blending of that, both 10th house and 7th house, the partnership and the career kind of merging in some way. And then Saturn rules both the 10th and the 8th and the 9th. And so this whole, you know, taking in new information and thinking on a global scale, thinking bigger and larger than life, which is kind of in sync with the North Node also in Gemini, about taking information in. Cancer and Cancer rising. So Cancer, our moon, our nurturer of the zodiac. You've had maybe a little bit of a difficult time when Saturn was in your 7th house in Capricorn, your opposite sign, kind of putting structure to your relationships. Some of you had, if you were married, maybe your marriage has been tested. Some of you maybe have settled down depending on the aspects in your chart. So the Saturn brought more stability. Some of you just were challenged and maybe really wanting that, or feeling isolated from relationships in some way. But then Jupiter there kind of made you, you know, brought some hope. Even though Jupiter it was in detriment in Capricorn, it still brought some hope and wishes to that area of your life for the past year. And so now these two planets are moving into your 8th house, and the 8th house is debt, taxes, death and rebirth, money with a partner, resources with a partner. So there might be a focus on those issues and bringing structure to those issues. Some of you, let's say, well, let's go back to Jupiter ruling your 9th house and your 5th house. I mean, your 6th house. So the 6th house is your health. It's your everyday work. It's kind of your routine. And then the 9th house is education and learning and spirituality and travel and wisdom and all those things. And so it could be that now you're realizing that it's important to prioritize yourself and your health. Maybe through your spirituality, you want to grow and become stronger, because the more inner strength we have, sometimes that motivates us to be physically strong. So maybe it's something as simple as that. Just, you know, being more in tune with yourself, more spiritual, that you're going to be experiencing or going through some sort of like spiritual transformation that really affects you. It could be that your day-to-day work is changing in some way, or there's more structure happening, or maybe there's more opportunities in that area. And then Saturn rules both the 7th and 8th house. So again, the idea of partnerships continues. So even though you've had those planets in your 7th house for a while, already testing your relationships, now it's taking it to the next level. Like, what have you learned about relationships in terms of combining your resources with someone? It's one thing to be in a relationship, but it's another thing to kind of share a household and pay bills together. Or if you have a business partner, maybe there's you know, learning how to better balance that relationship when it comes to money. Maybe there's some debts that you have to pay off related to, you know, a past relationship, and you're getting over that. There's all these different scenarios where this could be playing out. But other people are involved in some way, because Uranus is in your 11th house of friends, groups, and association, kind of changing that. So it could be that your relationships are and friendships in general are changing. People kind of leaving that no longer serve you, new people coming in. It might feel a little bit unstable and a little bit scary. Cancer being a sign that really likes familiarity, because your ruler is the moon, and you love to be nurtured and you love nurturing others. It could feel a little erratic, like people are kind of coming in and out, but just know that everything is happening for your higher good if that's your intention. And so your relationships in general are going to continue to kind of change and evolve so that you can be a better you. So Leo and Leo rising. Leo are lions. So right now you've had Saturn and Jupiter in your 6th house of work and daily health, daily routine, health, pets. So there might have been challenges that came up around those areas. and causing you to be more structured. Maybe there was a change at work, or there was new rules implemented that were hard for you to follow, or you had to adjust to, or maybe there was something with your health that went on that you couldn't ignore anymore, and you really had to get serious about your health and taking care of yourself. There could have been the issue with a pet of yours, for those of you who have pets, and now these planets are moving to your 7th house, and the focus is going to be on relationships. And so Saturn wants to make sure that you are ready, that you are strong, that you are disciplined, and you know that you should be doing the right things. And so this is happening in the area of relationships. So if you're in a relationship that you know isn't serving you, and it's been detrimental for you and your mental health, that relationship needs to be let go. And you should trust that it's the right time, because Jupiter is there to help bring maybe someone new in. And maybe it's as simple as you letting go of that old relationship, or even the idea of a relationship with someone that's maybe not healthy, and knowing that something new is going to come in. Jupiter rules your 8th house, and it rules your 5th house of creativity and romance. And so there can be an opportunity for, dating. I know we're in weird times right now, but for those of you that are single and you're looking for, a partner, maybe it's more like, okay, Jupiter ruling that 5th house natally for you, it's bringing more opportunities to connect with people. But Saturn is like, but have you learned the lesson? And as you're going through this dating or these relationship issues, it's asking you, are you being true to yourself in the relationship? Are you showing up in a way that's fair? Because Saturn is fair. It doesn't really pick sides. It just wants you to be good and strong. So if you're not maybe showing up in the relationship the way you should be, that will come up. And so this is both romantic and business relationships. Any relationship that feels like you're kind of committed to someone, that is where this energy is expressing itself the most. Uranus it's in your 10th house of career. There's changes coming up there as well. So it could be that some of you maybe when Saturn and Jupiter went Capricorn, you realize, oh, I don't really like the path that I'm on. I don't like all these rules. It's feeling really heavy. Saturn energy can feel heavy when things aren't well. Saturn pays off actually more than Jupiter when you're very structured and responsible. But when you're not, or when it wants to shake things up, it can feel very heavy. And so if you've been feeling heavy at work, and you've been feeling like, oh, I have to change something, some of you are going to go on a new path in a new direction completely. And it might be something that people never saw coming, like, I didn't know you want to be a fashion designer. You've been working as a nurse, or, I'm just giving examples, but it could be like a swift change, and you make it like that because now you're like, okay, I'm clear on what I need to do. I don't want a job or a situation where I'm not happy and I'm in this routine every day. I want something exciting, and I want something that's going to fuel me up. Leo is a creative sign. It's a creative energy. And so you need creativity in your life to kind of feel motivated. And so that might be the focus for some of you as well. Virgo and Virgo rising. Okay, so Virgo, you've had this energy of Jupiter and Saturn. It's been in your 5th house of creativity and children and gambling and romance. And so all of those things, there's been all these emotions going on in those areas because Saturn was there kind of maybe stifling those areas, making it feel a little bit tough. If you have children, maybe there was some, feeling like you had more challenges in that area. You had more responsibility. Maybe some of you in the dating world, things felt like a little bit, restrictive or not fun. And then maybe some of you, just all around, your creativity was stifled. But then Jupiter came in to kind of, help you out and give you a little bit of assistance there. And it was in Capricorn, a sign that is considered trying to you. So things might have been you might have saw a glimmer of hope over this past year, even with the year that we're having. So now those 2 planets are going to be moving into your 6th house. Right here, the 6th house of daily routine and work and service and health. And all of those things are actually very much in alignment with Virgo. Virgo is about, being of service to others, taking care of people, whether it's, just mentally or just being there for support. being routine driven. A lot of Virgos do have routine. They're very meticulous about things. So this energy might actually not be so challenging for you. A lot of Virgos are really used to hard work and putting in sacrifice and things like that. So Saturn in those areas might actually feel like you might start to feel a little bit more like yourself. Now, Saturn always does have a little bit of heaviness to it, but some signs are better able to deal with that energy than others. And I would say you're a sign that has the capability or the ability to deal with that in a healthier way. And so you might get very serious about your health. Maybe you start a whole new fitness routine, or you change up the way that you eat and the foods that you're consuming. Maybe you have all these ideas and you're really inspired to do that. Jupiter rules your 7th house, and it also rules your 4th house. So maybe it's something that you take on with your partner, and you guys, if you have a partner or you're in a partnership or you're living with someone, maybe you do it together and you change up your entire routine at home, and you change your home, all to kind of support this new lifestyle. Or maybe it is that you just are changing up your work and your daily habits in general. Some of you might be switching jobs. Maybe you have a new opportunity, and because it's a new opportunity, there's new, rules and regulations you have to learn. You have to learn a new way of doing things. Maybe some of you are working from home, and so that transition has been difficult, or it might be a little bit of a learning curve because you're not able to train in person or something like that. There's all these kind of ways that might play out, but it seems like more you're just getting serious about creating new structures and habits in your life. It's about setting up good habits, and the positive side about Virgo is that you're able to have good habits and good, stay very motivated and stay on things, and it's driven by Mercury. So there's this whole like intellectual side of you where you know how to plan things out, and you know how to get detailed and make your life more efficient. So this will help you continue to do that. So I hope that's good news for you, Virgo. So Libra and Libra rising. Libra, you've had Saturn and Jupiter hanging out in your 4th house of home and family and your ancestors and your lineage. And so it might have felt a little bit heavy, especially maybe 2 or 3 years ago, feeling like there was more responsibility around there. This can show up several ways. It could be maybe you had to take care of a parent. Maybe some of you had, purchased a home and there was new responsibility there. Maybe there was new family planning or something like that. And so now those 2 planets are moving into your 5th house, and the 5th house is more creative energy. It's about children, gambling, romance, and just the things that make us feel inspired. And so Saturn there can be a little bit of a stifler. It might feel like some of you, I don't know, some of you might even have children, and it's like maybe your children are growing into this new phase and they're starting school, and so there's new responsibilities around that. Maybe some of your children you've had to like make some, a lot of you that do have children that are in school are obviously might be homeschooling, but maybe for Libra rising, there's this additional type of responsibility around children. Or maybe it's just that, if you're dating, there's, you want to get more serious about it and you want to be committed. Like, okay, now I know I really want a relationship, and Libra is the sign of partnership and relationship. So a lot of you, that's important to you anyway. So maybe it's about getting serious about dating and really putting yourself out there. And then some of you might have these new creative ideas that you want to execute, and you're getting the wheels going, or things are kind of starting to move. Saturn naturally rules both your 4th and 5th house. So this is something that, creativity and getting ideas might be something that's already very natural to you. Libra is an air sign, and Aquarius is an air sign. So this energy is actually much more, easier for you to deal with than when it was in Capricorn, a sign that's square to yours. And so it's just feeling a little bit lighter, like feeling like you can finally think more and breathe and be more creative in those areas, and a little bit of the pressure might be lifting off in the home area. Scorpio and Scorpio rising. Okay, so you've had Saturn and Jupiter in your 3rd house, transiting for, about Saturn for about 3 years, Jupiter for about a year. And that's the area of like neighborhood and your mind and the way you think and communication and your siblings. And so there's been a lot of thought and energy maybe put into that more from a mental standpoint. Saturn rules both your third and your fourth naturally, and so they're both now moving to your fourth house, and that's putting the focus on home and family. So this can play out in several ways. Some of you might be starting a new family, might be planning, thinking about having children, which would be the natural progression of planning fourth house. And then when the energy moves to the fifth house, especially when Jupiter moves there and it rules the fifth house naturally for you, maybe that's children, that child is born. So some of you are thinking about that. Some of you might be wanting to purchase a home or simply moving or changing your residence in some way. There's definitely going to be issues around relationships because Uranus is in your seventh house of partnership and business partnerships and marriage partnerships or long-term partnerships, and they're going to be squaring that fourth house. So maybe there's some issue around the home and the partner or the family and the partner that comes out that needs to be resolved and resolved for good, because Saturn wants to, you know, bring that structure and bring that lesson and for you to master that area. So that might play out in that way. Jupiter rules your second house. I already talked about it ruling the fifth house, but it also rules the second house of money. So that could be, you know, money tied to the home again. So if you're not buying a house, if you're not moving, maybe you're just making home renovations and you're having to, you know, put money into it as an investment so that you're setting up this foundation for future. The fourth house is the foundational part of our chart. So it can play out that way as well. Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising. So you've had both Saturn and Jupiter in your second house of finances, Capricorn, and they both rule your second and third house naturally. So Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, very optimistic, usually thinking glass half full than empty. But when it comes to finances, you're supposed to learn how to be very responsible and structured and planning and be good at business and all those things. And so Saturn in this second house has been challenging to be that way. There might have felt like you've been restricted when it comes to money. Maybe more money was going out than coming in and it felt a little bit tight. So now you're going to be getting a little bit of a pressure relief. And then those two planets are moving into your third house of, you know, your mind, the way you communicate, your neighborhood, siblings. And so there might be more of a focus on that. And that can just be more of a mental thing, or it might physically play out with you putting more energy into neighbors or putting more energy into your sibling relationships. For those of you who have siblings, it could mean planning. The third house is the ninth house is higher education. The third house is kind of fundamental education. So they both rule the mind and learning in some way. And so there could be, you know, new studies or things that you're trying to learn that will help you for future. Just kind of foundationally getting all of that information going. And overall, though, you hopefully will have been in a better position financially, or if you learned some lessons, so you're able to kind of free up your time and implement things that really are going to keep your mind stimulated and bring you more joy into your life. Uranus is also in your sixth house currently, sixth house being your health and your daily routine. For some of you, maybe that's going to be shaken up in some way, because the third house is neighborhood and kind of like your local community. So maybe some of you, that is going to change, and maybe that changes your daily routine in some way, especially when those planets make that square aspect in Taurus and Aquarius. Or it can be that maybe just your health, you need to make some sort of change in the health department or something like that. Capricorn and Capricorn rising. So you've had a long trek of, you still have Pluto in Capricorn, but a lot of Capricorns have been dealing with a lot of, you know, stuff. Even though Saturn rules Capricorn, Saturn being in your sign that rules yourself and your sun sign, can feel even more heavier. Some of you might actually felt like you're finally in flow. So that could be playing out, you know, it could be two opposite ends of the spectrum. Some people feeling very heavy, and then some people feeling like, oh, I'm finally stepping into my own. And so Saturn rules time, and you're a sign that usually gets better with time. So the more wisdom you have, the more, you know, structure you have, the more learning, the more you have under your belt, the better your life becomes. And so all of that has been a theme for you with both Saturn and Jupiter in your first house. It's like you've been leveling up, you've been becoming stronger, you've been becoming more abundant, having a more abundant mindset. And now those two planets are going to be moved into your second house, and maybe there's some sort of payoff there, or maybe there's some sort of expansion in that area. Jupiter wanting to expand your financial situation. Jupiter also in the second can mean more spending. So I do want you to be a little cautious about overspending or overdoing it. But with Saturn there, that's the good thing about having those two planets together. Saturn is always going to check Jupiter and be like, no. Don't spend that last $100 or you need to save for that, for something. And so Saturn and Jupiter in the second, it might feel like this push and pull, like I want to spend, but maybe I shouldn't spend. And so just, you're going to be smart about it, and it's just trying to get you more structured so that you can build a better foundation for the future. Remember, Saturn wants to teach us lessons. You're very good at learning lessons. You should be as a Capricorn, because that's your natural ruler. Aquarius and Aquarius rising. So many of you have felt the dawn of something happening. Aquarian is a sign that it's an air sign, but it has a lot of intuition of the mind. It's almost like a claircognizant or cognizance. Claircognizant is like knowing. And so a lot of you have felt something looming, a change looming, something coming up. It's like you're completing a cycle in a certain way. And so you've had the planets Jupiter and Saturn in your 12th house of your subconscious and self-undoing and, you know, hidden things and depth. And the 12th house is not an easy house to understand, and it's not an easy house to explain. And so it's kind of all those things in our life that really are beneath the surface, and things that we're not aware of, and it's going deep. It's psychotherapy, it's all those things. So when you've had all that energy in that house, there's been a lot of like mental, you know, thinking a lot about, you know, what you want your life to unfold and be like, just being deep in general. And as an air sign, Aquarius being an air sign, you're already very much in your thoughts. And so Saturn and Jupiter are moving into your first house. So now it's time to get the ball rolling and start on a new journey. That's the easiest way that I can explain. Jupiter wants to launch you out to something, launch yourself, expand your way of thinking. The mind is more third house, but you yourself is the first house. So anything that has to do with yourself, Jupiter wants to expand that. I will warn, Jupiter sometimes can expand your waistline too. So guard against overeating, because that physically can show up when Jupiter's in your first house. But Saturn's there to kind of, you know, limit things. So it might not be too crazy. But it's almost like you have these new ideas and you're feeling really inspired, but you know the inspiration is not, like, the buck doesn't stop there. You have to follow up with the work. So Saturn is there, and Saturn is your traditional ruler. And so Saturn is saying, okay, now it's time to, you know, make a plan, get myself in order, put myself first. What do I want? You're starting this new cycle. You're feeling refreshed, and it's time to focus on you and what you want to cultivate in your life. A lot of it might even be around your family and your home life with Uranus here in Taurus in your fourth house. There might be some sort of like tension between you and family. Maybe you have different ideals about how you want your life to look. Maybe you want to move away from your family. You just really have to say, what do I want? Because at the end of the day, what we want is king. I mean, even when we get married, your partner becomes your priority, but you have to always take care of yourself first. And so the theme for you is put myself first. What do I need to do to be better? And Pisces rising. So you've had Capricorn, Saturn and Pluto in Capricorn, Pluto's in Capricorn, but Saturn and Jupiter in Capricorn in your 11th house of friendships and groups and the money you make from your career. And there might be, especially now if you're watching this in December, right now, career is very much maybe a focus on you and what you want to do, and you're thinking about all these things. You have the South Node there, so that could have been something that's been on your mind. Jupiter rules the 10th house for you and your first house. So with these two planets moving into Aquarius in your 12th house, it's about getting in tune with what you want on a subconscious level, and you're really good at that. Your sign, it's a water sign, it's mutable water, it's ruled by Jupiter. There's a lot of people with a lot of Pisces in their chart have a spirituality about them, a knowing, a kind of intuition, and so it's time to get in tune with that. Saturn in that area can feel very restrictive and can be saddening sometimes, but Jupiter is there for the next year to kind of help uplift you. So it's about moving more towards what is going to fill your cup up. And Pisces being a water sign, that's a very, useful analogy. And so right now it's about self-undoing. The 12th house is the house of self-undoing. If you're standing in your own way, get out of your way. It's time to make a plan. It's time to get, we all need the energy of all 12 signs in our chart, and Pisces being one of the most giving and compassionate, and signs that, where they know how to blend in, they know how to transform. But sometimes we need to be very, realistic and structured, and Saturn is about being realistic and structured. So maybe it's teaching you, it's a time to teach you, like, okay, I really have to, master something. I really have to commit to something that's going to make me better. Jupiter is going to move into your first house next year, and then you'll get the chance to start working on that. But right now you're in a preparatory phase. And like I said, there might have been, it might even be really tied to your career. Or maybe you're thinking about that right now during this particular time of year. You have Uranus in your third house of, your mind. So there's a lot of thoughts going on there. And so right now you're just getting in tune with the self, which is something that a Pisces should really be good at doing. So I hope you enjoyed hearing about the upcoming Saturn and Jupiter conjunction. I want to leave you with this, knowing that I know 2020 has been a difficult year for many people. My personal message is that external circumstances should never affect your internal happiness. They might make you feel challenged and difficult, but our true happiness comes from within. Nothing external will bring that for us. So I just want to leave you with that. And know that 2021 is not going to be a miracle year where all of the problems go away. We've never had a year like that in the history of humanity. It's just not the way the world's set up. We're here to learn lessons. We're here to overcome things. Saturn wants to teach us lessons. Anything that we're going through for the better. So Saturn moving into Aquarius is to better us as a humanity. Better us to save our world, better us to be more giving, to be humanitarian-like, to pour the water of knowledge. Aquarius is about knowledge, and it's a water bearer. Pour the water out into the world so that people are being better served. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment below. Let me know if you have any questions. And cheers to prosperity, mental, physical, spiritual, and being centered. Thank you for watching.